Central Assiniboine Watershed District, one of 14 watershed districts in Manitoba, encompasses a portion of the Assiniboine River watershed through southwestern Manitoba, reaching from just west of Brandon to Portage-la-Prairie and south nearly to the American border. The portion of North Cypress-Langford south of Carberry is part of this district, while the northern portion is part of the Whitemud Watershed District. The watershed districts are partnerships between the province and local municipalities to develop and implement programming in an effort to help restore and manage land and water resources within the watershed. Hailey Gardham, Program Coordinator with the Central Assiniboine Watershed District, joins us to demystify the role of the Watershed District and outline the programs that are available to landowners in the district. These programs range from shelter belt assistance to specialized equipment rentals to water retention programs, all of which aim to help maintain farming practices, which are an essential part of the rural economy, while restoring and preserving the land and watershed in a healthy state.
Okay, so my name is Hailey Gardham. I am the GROW/PWCP coordinator for Central Assiniboine Watershed District based out of Balder. So I pretty much take in the applications and I will kind of organize them and go out and look at them if need be. I also kind of do a handful of other things beside that stuff. So I normally will organize a summer student and I will go and take the equipment somewhere if need be, or I'll help with some of the well cappings and well shockings if we need to do all that stuff. But yeah.
And then just one big question. What is the role and importance of a watershed conservation district?
That's a big one. There's lots and lots of benefits to having a watershed district and conservation district. I think mainly it helps keep the land to its natural, or more natural than it's kind of veering into, is the way that I look at it. I find sometimes we're having a lot of farms getting no shelter belts and like tilling everything up, and we're seeing a lot of erosion and all that happening, and I'm thinking that our new practices that we're trying to fund kind of help eliminate that, and we're kind of trying to go back to before the age of all of this stuff that's not wrecking our land but definitely not helping improve it. So I think it's kind of pulling us back a little bit, trying to do the things that are best for our land. But yeah. All right, so welcome. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Hailey Gardham, and I am the GROW/PWCP coordinator for Central Assiniboine Watershed District based out of Balder. So today I'm going to go over just a little bit of a background of our district, just to show you the history a little bit, because the names have changed sometimes, so you might recognize some of the old names and not know what our new name is. So go over a little bit of background. Then I'll go over a couple of our in-house programs just that we do directly out of the district office that we kind of fund with our sub-district funding and stuff like that. Then I'll go over our GROW, PWCP, and ROP programs. So just a little bit of background. So our district began in 2001 as the Tiger Hills Conservation District. When we were Tiger Hills, we were in partnership with the municipalities of Argyll, Strathcona, South Cypress, Glenwood, the town of Souris, the village of Glenborough, and the province of Manitoba. In 2008, we then changed our boundaries a little bit and changed our name to be the Assiniboine Hills Conservation District. Here we added the arm of Cornwallis, Whitewater, Riverside, Oakland, the village of Wawanesa, and the city of Brandon. In 2020, Assiniboine Hills was one of the 18 conservation districts that became a group of 14 watershed districts with the proclamation of the Watershed Districts Act. Our name was then changed to Central Assiniboine Watershed District, and we no longer go by the municipal borders, but now we go by the watersheds. So the flow of water is what we go by now. So this is what our district looks like. We got a little bit of Carberry in here. We go up all the way to Arm of Elton. Central Assiniboine Watershed District is a grassroots-led organization led by a municipal appointed board and staff of watershed-focused land management professionals. Central Assiniboine Watershed District is made up of 20 portions of 20 municipalities. We say portions because it's not the whole municipalities now, as well as 6 different sub-districts. Our sub-districts are the Epinette Willow Creek, the Oak Creek, Assiniboine River, Lower Assiniboine River, Little Souris River, and then the Cypress River. So we can't do this today without mentioning all of our partners. So Central Assiniboine Watershed District is in partnership with the Manitoba Association of Watersheds. These are the people that kind of run the PWCP program for us. We also are in partnership with Growing Outcomes in Watersheds, Manitoba Habitat Conservancy, and then of course the province of Manitoba, or the government of Manitoba. So to kick things off, I'll kind of go over just a couple of our in-house programs. So through our district, we have 3 different equipment rentals that you can rent out. Our first one is our plastic mulch applicator. That's this yellow piece of machinery right here. And you can rent this for $75 a day. The other one is our tree planter, which is the blue one. And this one's also $75 a day. And then the other piece of equipment that we have is our grass seeder. And the grass seeder is just a small one that you can put on your quad. You hook it up to the battery and it kind of broadcasts your grass seed if you want. And that one is a $50 damage deposit refundable upon return of the grass seeder. We don't provide the trees or the mulch. You would have to go out and purchase it yourself. But the planters and stuff, if you need help with running them or knowing how to run them, we can teach you how to do it. The tree planter and the tree mulcher need a tractor with hydraulics on it so that you can move the blades and everything up and down. Yeah, we say $75 a day, but we understand that the weather permitting, sometimes you get it for a day and then it's raining that day. So we say a week tops usually, depending on how busy it is. But yeah.
And if someone's looking for like where they can acquire the trees or whatever, can you provide recommendations to people?
Yep. We usually just say, like we don't provide them, but lots of districts get them from here. Like we know like Jeffrey's Seeds or Jeffrey's Nurseries, and Portage does a lot. There's also a colony in Portage that does a lot of trees. Lots of people will go down into the States and get trees, but it's just really whatever's easiest for you. If you do need trees and plastic mulch, I do recommend booking them like even now. Last year they had a shortage of plastic mulch, and the plastic mulch is the stuff that you put over the trees for weed barrier pretty much. There was a shortage, so people were having a hard time getting it, but yeah, I would phone around. But yeah, if you need recommendations to where to get the stuff, we can always let you know. So some other things that we do in our district just out of our office is we can provide shelter belt rebates. So we can provide 50% of the cost up to $3,000 for holdings over 10 acres, or 50% of the cost up to $1,500 for holdings less than 10 acres. We can also provide a rebate for the plastic mulch, so we can pay up to 50% of your plastic mulch with a maximum of $1,000. We also do some well establishment rebates. So if you need to dig a well for your house or your cattle or anything except for irrigation pivots, we can fund up to $1,000 one time only for that. And then we also have our own in-house cross fence rebates that we can pay for with the sub-district funding. And then just some kind of other random ones that we do well cappings for free. So if you have any old abandoned wells in your yard, we can cap these for free. We will organize everything. We just have to get some locates done and book a contractor to do it. We also do well shock chlorination. This is a $75 fee. We will come and shock your well. With that one, we don't like to do hot water tanks anymore, just because there is a big liability on cracking your hot water tank. But we can do your cold water caps. And this can be for your cattle yards or your house or whatever wells you need. We also do 50-50 cost share up to $1,000 for beaver let lures, and that would be what this one is here with the culvert. So that would be like a beaver deceiver, like it stops the beavers from plugging up the culvert and it keeps the water levels kind of what they're supposed to be. And we can, up to $1,000. So all of these CAWD application forms are here, or they're in our office or on our website. So if you need any information on that, just give us a call. The next one that I'll go over now is our GROW program. This is where most of our programs come out of. GROW stands for Growing Outcomes in the Watersheds. It is a Made in Manitoba program that supports conservation projects on agricultural lands. GROW can fund project establishment costs and can provide annual payments for projects that help improve or maintain watershed health. GROW is sectioned into 5 categories: We've got water retention, wetlands, buffer, uplands, and riparian. So the first one that I'll go over is our water retention program. So through this program, my coworker Ashley Schultz is the one that will go out and help you build dams. So we can fund small dam construction, berms, and gated culverts. All of these dams in these pictures are dams that we have done through our district. Each of these projects are a 10-year agreement through our district. Most stuff when it comes to dams and berms and stuff like that, when you're dealing with the like water people and you're doing all your permits, most of them are longer permits than that, but that's just what the GROW guidelines have given us as a 10-year. So most of them will have to be longer than 10 years, but we could get to that when you apply for the dam stuff. Things that aren't eligible is dugout construction. We can't do stuff for surface and subsurface drainage, and we can't do stuff for irrigation infrastructure. We can build a dam for your irrigation pivots, but we can't fund the infrastructure to go from the dam to your pivots.
Right.
Yeah. The next one that we've got is my favorite program, and this is our Wetlands Conservation Enhancement and Restoration Program. So through this program, we can help fund an annual incentive for you to conserve your class 1 and 2 wetlands. We can also help pay for establishment of perennial seed in or around all wetlands, restoration of drained wetlands by plugging the surface drains, and reestablishment of natural topographic contours. All of these programs are also a 10-year agreement. So with the conserving of existing class 1 and 2 wetlands, we can pay you an annual incentive for 10 years for you to leave your class 1 and 2 wetlands undrained. You can seed through them whenever you want, you just can't drain them, and they can't be a part of an existing drain. So these wetlands would be ones like these that show up kind of temporarily in the spring. Sometimes you can see through them, sometimes you can't, depending on the year. Sometimes they don't show up at all. But yeah, for this program, what we do with the wetlands is you would give us all your quarter sections. I would take them, we have a mapping system that can figure out the elevation changes between the wetland and the normal. And we can kind of see where they classify, if it's a 1, 2, or a 3, or a 4. And then we'll normally cross-reference with multiple different maps because we know that maps always are changing. And then if we really need to, we'll go and take our drone out and check it out and make sure that it's still good. With this program, the conservation of 3s and 4 wetlands are not eligible. Conservation of peatlands is not eligible, and the conservation of wetlands on pasture land is not eligible. We can do on cultivated land and hayland, but pasture land is not being approved yet for us to do.
Can you tell me the difference between the 1, 2, 3, and 4 wetlands?
Yep. So a class one wetland would be like this one. So it's got like 0 vegetation in it, pretty much. A class 2 would start having a little bit of marshy vegetation. The way that I like to say the difference between a class 2 and a 3 is a 3 will have your cattails, a 2 will not.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes 2 will have, I don't know the exact terms of the grasses and stuff, but it'll have certain grasses along the edge. You can definitely tell that it's a wetland. But the 3 is a deeper one, and it'll have cattails. And then the 4 is definitely a deep wetland, will definitely have cattails and all that stuff. But it's kind of hard because when you get a really, really wet year, sometimes your class 2s could look like a 3, which we've had, but yeah, we also have guides here if you need more of a. We like to go by the Stewart and Cantry wetlands classification guide, and that's kind of, they break it down way better than I can. So our next program is our Riparian Area Management Program. So under this program, we can help fund for some rotational grazing stuff. So we can fund up to $18,000 per quarter maximum for riparian fencing, watering system, well establishment, and pipeline. We can also help fund stream crossings, erosion control, stream bank stabilization, reestablishment of riparian vegetation, grass runways like the one that we've got down here. That's the grass runway that we did a couple years ago at just south of Wawanesa. And then we can also do some stuff with seeding down salinity areas. Riparian program is a 5 to a 10-year agreement. We try to push really hard for the 10-year agreements, but we do understand that all farms are different, and sometimes a 10-year agreement is not good for a farm. With all of the grow programs, although they say that it's a 5 or a 10-year agreement, in our district, you are able to get out of it if you need to. You're not completely forced to stick with this program for 10 years or 5 years. If you need to get out of it for some reason, like you're selling your land or you just need to change things up, it's not working for you, you just have to give us a 30-day notice and we can cancel your contract. You will not owe us any money, but we would probably just not pay you for the rest if it was an annual incentive program. Actually, I wanted to show, this here's a gully that we did a couple years ago. This is what it looked like before. I don't have an after picture, but we repaired that one, which was pretty cool. The next program is our buffer establishment program. So under this program, we can help fund shelter belts for your fields. We don't do yard shelter belts, this would be just for your fields. Perennial cover buffers, grass waterways, salinity buffers, if you need to add new rows to your old shelter belts, if you need to increase species diversity in your buffers, if you need to expand your buffers, or if you need to reestablish some vegetation, we can help with this through our buffer program. This program is also a 10-year agreement. If you're doing shelter belts, we cannot help fund, all trees have to be bought from a nursery, and we can't help with trees that can, like Christmas trees, fruit-bearing trees, fruit-bearing shrubs. We can't help with stuff like emerald ash, which is an invasive species. Can't do that, but the other stuff we can. I think that's most of it. Oh yeah, and the relocation of trees we can't do as well. Actually, I should make a comment. With this one, again, if you seed down, say salinity or a grass runway, we normally, when you're seeding stuff down, we can pay for the cost of seed and then $25 or $35 an acre for you to seed it down. We ask usually for you to seed it 1 year, and then if for some reason it dies out or doesn't grow, we ask that you seed it, try again one more time at least on your own dime. So if it doesn't grow the first year, seed it the second year, but you would have to pay for the inputs. And then if it doesn't grow a third year, we would probably look into canceling the contract. But yeah, because we don't want to make you seed every year for 5 years and it not grow on you, because that wouldn't be very good. So. The last one under grow is our uplands program. So under this program, it's kind of the same as riparian. We can pay for rotational grazing stuff, $18,000 a quarter maximum. So this is for cross fence, watering systems, well establishment, and pipelines. We can also do some conservation of existing native prairie and highly erodible areas. And we have been doing a lot of land conversion lately. So that would be if you had cultivated land that you wanted to change over to perennial grass seed, we can help pay for the seed and cost to seed for that. For the rotational grazing stuff, we normally ask that it is, like, we need to make sure that it's rotational grazing system, I guess. So, and we don't pay for any perimeter fencing, we only pay for cross fencing. This is also a 5 to 10 year agreement, but we will probably ask that we do a 10-year, but if we can't, then that's okay, no worries. But these are some watering systems that we've done in the past. There's our rotational grazing guys. Ladies, I guess. Yeah. So how to apply for grow. So what we used to do for grow is we used to just give me a call and we would talk it out. I'd put it in a sticky note or keep it in my brain, and then my brain got a little too full. Now I've made these application forms for you to fill out. On the application forms, we ask for all of your name, landowner name, phone number, email address, all that. We will also ask for a map. So I left an area on the application forms for you to draw a brief map just describing what's on your land. So put in all of the fencing, watering system stuff that you already have, if you're interested in rotational grazing, and then put the new fence that you're wanting to put on there. If you're wanting to do the buffer program, I'd ask that you try and draw a good description of your quarter section, and then draw where you're going to put your buffers, or anywhere where you're going to seed down is where you're wanting to seed down. The more detailed it is, the better we can understand in our office, and then we probably don't have to phone you and ask a million questions. But yeah, once we get through the application part, we'll probably ask you for some quotes. Once we get the quotes in, I will make up a proposal and I'll propose it to our grow board. Once the grow board approves it, I will then make up an agreement. Then I'll send the agreement in the mail. Once the agreement is signed and back in our office, you can start purchasing your stuff. Yeah. Any questions about grow?
Just a couple of general questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So, what is the importance, especially when planting trees, of the diversity in species?
Pollinators, like lots of times if you grow, say, an evergreen, and then lots of people put like a Saskatoon, or like they kind of do that. It helps with snow capture. When I was in school, they taught us that it helps with snow capture and helps with wind a little bit.
Okay.
Pollinators, though, I like the pollinators, so I say try and make it more diverse and more flowery and all you can do, but I would say mainly just the snow capture and wind capture. Also protection of each other's trees. Like I recommend if you're doing a shelter belt, do a 3-row shelter belt. And normally you'll put one tall, so like an evergreen or a poplar, and then you do like a smaller tree, like, I don't know, a carragana or something, and then you do another smaller shrub is normally how I try to get people to do it, but it's totally whatever's up to you guys and whatever best suits your farm, I guess.
And are there deadlines for these programs, or are they all rolling?
For grow, there is no deadline. We do meetings every 3 to 4 months, but we the way that we do it is we have our budget and it just kind of keeps going. So if you need to go on this budget year, last budget years, it's okay. First come, first serve is how all these programs work,
Okay.
but there is no deadline for grow or the other ones from the office that I talked about. But if you're applying for the ones from the office, like the tree planter and stuff, I'd recommend if you want to use the tree planter or get your stuff well sealed or well shocked in the summer, try and apply in the spring. Because if you apply in the fall, that's probably our busiest time, so we probably won't get to it until next year. But yeah, so there's no deadlines on these ones. But the next one that I'm going to talk about, actually, there is deadlines.
Okay.
But do you have any more questions about?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So the next one is our PWCP program, otherwise known as our Prairie Watershed and Climate Program. So Prairie Watershed and Climate Program provides funding incentives to producers who implement any of the 3 eligible beneficial management practice into their operations. The 3 practices are cover crop, nitrogen management, and rotational grazing. Producers may be eligible for up to $75,000 to cover up to 85% of implementation costs. Funding limits may vary in each watershed district. All applications for PWCP are a 1-year agreement. So talking about the deadlines, for PWCP, the applications for 2024 actually are opening up in April, and they will be due March of next year. So this year, currently right now we're still in the 2023 application forms, and they're due, I like to say, mid-March. But the new ones will open April 1st, and then they'll be due again next March. So the first one under PWCP is our cover crop program. So we can fund up to $35 an acre for seeding down cover crops. I guess up to 85% of your total cost with a maximum of $35 an acre is what it would actually be. With this, you can put in your seed and your cost to seed to get up to the $35 an acre. All of the PWCP programs, we take the numbers before GST because it is a federal funded program. So it is taxable. We can also pay up to 85% of agronomic support for seeding down cover crops. So this would be like if your agronomist charged you, say, $100 for their time or their specific information. That would be what this could cover, is 85% of that. All your cover crops have to have at least 6 inches of growth over the winter, whether it's just stubble or actual growth. We need to have 6 inches of cover, I guess, not growth. But we need to have 6 inches of cover over the winter just so that it captures the snow. So then our next one category is our nitrogen management category. Under this category, there's a lot of different practices and applications. If they are on the same page, that means they're on the same, if they're on the same slide, that means they're on the same application form, is how I kind of did it. So under PWCP, we can fund up to 85% of the total cost of a dual inhibitor. Examples of a dual inhibitor would be like Super U, Tribune, Excelius Max, Neon Surface, Neon Air, stuff like that. When applying for Super U, although it is an inhibitor, you would actually have to fill out the PCU table. And that's because for Super U, we only pay 85% of the cost difference between Super U and then the regular urea. The next one on that page is our PCU, so polymer coated urea. An example of this would be ESN, and we only pay 85% of the cost difference between regular urea and the polymer coated urea. So if you are unsure about what a dual inhibitor is, I would say ask your agronomist. Or if you don't know what's eligible under our program, I do have sheets that tell you what's a dual inhibitor, what's a single, like where they all fall under, and we can check for you, or I can give you the list. The next program is our legumes program, so it's kind of the same as our cover crop program. We can pay maximum 85 or up to 85% of the total cost with a maximum of $35 an acre for you to seed down legumes. Again, you can do your seed and cost to seed to get up to that $35 an acre. In our district, all legumes are eligible, so this is peas, soybeans, faba beans, alfalfa. Any legume you can think of is eligible under our program. I know lots of districts don't do soybeans or faba beans, but you would have to kind of talk to your district and see which ones they allow. But for ours, we do all of them. The next one is our nitrogen management program for manure injection and upgrading manure injection equipment. So we can pay up to 85% of the contractor cost to incorporate manure into the soil. This is for incorporating only, so we cannot fund spreading, but injecting and tilling it under is eligible. Manure is not eligible, like the manure itself is not eligible, but the time and labor for incorporating it is. If you do this yourself, we do have a farm equipment guide that I normally bring, but I didn't bring it today, that can show like your piece of machinery, and it'll show the custom rates that people charge for your specific piece of machinery. So if you have a John Deere whatever and your certain type of tiller, you can break it kind of down and make up your own invoice for that. If you do make your own invoice for it though, we would need your signature on the invoice just so that we know that you're not making a bunch of stuff up. The other program that's eligible under, the other thing that's eligible in this program is our manure equipment upgrades. So we can pay up to $200 a foot of the equipment upgrade with a maximum of $30,000. But this is for injection equipment only. So injectors are eligible, but harrows and deep tiller equipment is not eligible. So it would have to be the injectors themselves. Tanks and hoses and stuff like that are not eligible. It'd be the specific injectors themselves that are on the equipment that are eligible. And yeah, $200 a foot maximum. The other equipment upgrades that we do through this program is we can help fund the equipment upgrades to allow for fertilizer banding, side dressing, and injection. Again, we can pay $200 a foot maximum, or 85% of the total cost, up to $30,000. So this would be stuff like side banders, mid-row banders, injectors, any side dressing equipment. If you need to do openers, the knives would be eligible too. Tanks, hoses, batteries, etc. are not eligible. The upgrades that are eligible are only specifically on what's doing the banding or the injecting or the side dressing. On that same application form, we do split fertilizer application, so we can pay up to 85% of the cost of the second pass to do your split fertilizer. So lots of people will apply a little bit of their fertilizer on in the spring, and then they'll do half of it again either midsummer or in the fall even. So we can pay for the labor and time to do the second pass. We don't pay for the fertilizer for that, but if you were wanting to apply for the fertilizer, you could put it under something like the other fertilizer programs, but we pay for the time and labor for that. The last one under PWCP is our soil testing, soil mapping, and agronomic support for nitrogen management plans. So we can pay up to 50% of the total cost for support with a maximum of $10,000. We can also pay 85% of the cost to do soil testing with a maximum of $2,500 per year. And we can also pay 50% of the total cost of soil mapping with a maximum of $10,000 per year. I forgot to mention though, for this year, the new thing that they've brought to us for 2024 is For soil testing applications or anything on this slide, and as well as for any equipment upgrade applications, you must be doing another practice with it. So if you're applying for soil testing, you must also apply for legumes or cover crop or an inhibitor, and same goes for the equipment upgrades. So for the equipment upgrades, you must apply for inhibitors or PCU or legumes or cover crop. It's just because they like to see as many practices done as possible, and we're trying to get away from us just strictly paying for people's equipment. We're trying to get them to actually do the practices that we're trying to push. So the other thing under PWCP is our rotational grazing. It's pretty much the same as our grow stuff. $18,000 per quarter for cross fencing, wildlife friendly fencing, temporary fencing, stationary watering systems, and mobile watering systems. And we can also fund up to $35 an acre maximum, or 85% of the total cost for seeding down or for improving pasture composition. So that's if you don't like the way that your pastures are looking and you're wanting to possibly add some legumes in it or add some alfalfa or some new grasses, we can pay for that. We can also pay up to 50% of the total cost maximum of $400 for the completion of a rotational grazing plan too. So how to apply? So all of our PWCP applications are on our website. This is what the application form will look like originally. It'll ask for all of your information and everything. Try and fill it out as best as you can. So with our application forms, we also have a professional, or on the application forms, please make sure that you fill it out as best as you can. And we will also need to have a signature on the application form as well as your initials. With the application form, we also need a professional assessment form to be filled out. And that would be what this paper looks like. The professional assessment form will need to be filled out by an agronomist, certified ag, people that are pretty much certified in the ag field. You can find someone with these credentials probably at your local seed retailer. We've done lots of stuff with Co-op, SureGrow, Nutrien, just different seed companies. They all should have, one of them should have their agronomy. So they can fill that form out for you. With that, we'll also need all of your invoices. So that's the difference between PWCP and Grow. Is Grow, we go off of quotes. PWCP, we go off of invoices. So you need to purchase all of your stuff before applying. And then we'll also need some pictures in some cases. So for nitrogen management and cover crop programs, we need your filled out signed application form. We need your filled out signed professional assessment form by your agronomist. We'll need all of your invoices, including your cost to seed if you're putting that in. So if you're doing that, if you're doing your cost to seed invoices, you can just make them yourself from you to the farm or from the farm to you. Whatever's easiest, as long as it makes sense. And then we'll also need some pictures. We'll need pictures for cover crop, legumes, equipment upgrades, applications, stuff like that. For rotational grazing applications under PWCP, there's an extra step to it. So yeah, we'll need your filled out signed application form, all of your invoices, but then we'll also need your professional assessment form to be filled out by a rotational grazing mentor, so not an agronomist. If you're unsure about who these people are or where to find people like this, we have some names and numbers that we can give you that we've worked with before. We would also need a rotational grazing plan to be, you can make the plan yourself, but it would need to be signed by your rotational grazing mentor that signed your professional assessment form. So with rotational grazing, there'll be 4 things that we need, actually 5 things, because then we'll also need pictures later on, but the pictures don't have to happen when we are applying. They can happen later on within that year of the application. I do like to give a little bit of a forewarning about PWCP. PWCP is a changeable program. It is a federal funded program, so it's completely changeable. They can change it whenever they want at any given moment. They actually changed a couple things on us 2 days ago. So whenever they want, they can change what's eligible, they can change the funding costs, they can change whatever they want at any time. So if you're unsure about what's still eligible or if anything's changed, just give us a call and we can let you know. When applying for PWCP, I guess the application process is you'll give me all of your stuff at the same time. I will look it over. I will do an in-house approval, then I'll throw it on our database, and on the database it will then get sent to the Manitoba Association of Watersheds, which are the people that do the final approval. So they will do a second and final approval of your project. Then once they approve it, I will make up an agreement and I will email it to you. Once, with the agreement, there will also be a statement of on-farm support payments paper. This will be like a tax form, so it will ask for your social insurance number and your business number if you have, but you can't get your funding if you don't fill this form out. So I like to give a heads up before, just in case you don't want to. Once you get all that stuff signed, you'll send it back to me. Then I will send it to Manitoba Association of Watersheds, and then they will process the payments. So as soon as I get the agreements, I will send them in, and then they're completely out of the Watershed District's hands, then they're in MA's hands. This program is not a get money fast program. The payments can take 10 to 12 months to come. MA doesn't get their funds released to them until mid-October, sometimes November, and then they can start processing, and that's their busiest time of year. So this year they didn't start processing payments until January. So just a heads up, you're not gonna get your funding immediately, but you will get it. If you've been approved, you will get your funding, you just will not get it fast. But yeah, any questions about PWCP?
No, I don't think so.
No? All right. The last program that I'll go over is our RALP program. So this is Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program. So this program was created to provide funding to increase the environmental resilience of agricultural landscapes by accelerating the adoption of on-farm land use and management practices. RALP has a lot of the same programs as GROW. It's pretty much the exact same as GROW, but I'm gonna go over a couple that GROW does not cover. So RALP does cover all rotational grazing practices, land conversion, anything like that. But I'll go over the ones that GROW doesn't really touch base on, and then I'll kind of explain a little bit afterwards what's going on. So the first one that I'll go over is our agroforestry program. So here we can help with establishment and maintenance of shelter belts or tree buffers for farmyards, livestock facilities, and fields. The difference between this and GROW is the farmyards and livestock facilities. GROW cannot fund farmyard and livestock facility shelter belts, but they can do field shelter belts. Also, agroforestry programs can help with planting of trees, shrubs on marginal or high-risk cropland, and they also directly can impact silvopasture. So silvopasture is the integration of trees and grazing livestock on the same land at the same time. So GROW does not directly apply to silvopasture, but RALP will. Some other things that GROW doesn't do, but RALP does. So RALP can help fund strip planting of perennial cover. So you can see here. And then we can also do some establishment of pollinator strips or other perennial cover for pollinator habitat. So GROW doesn't have anything that directly can impact the pollinators, but RALP does. So that's a good program. Another one that RALP does is they can also help fund engineering and consultative fees, construction of water level controls for wetland restoration, and revegetation of restored wetland area and adjacent uplands. And if anybody farms in Manitoba, they probably know what this is. This is our pesky leafy spurge that hopefully not everybody has. RALP can help with leafy spurge control. There is no blanket application, there is no blanket example of how this is gonna look. So if you do have leafy spurge and you need help with it, just give us a call. And I like to say, give my manager a call, because he's in charge of RALP actually. But we can hopefully guide you into the right path, and hopefully RALP can help a little bit with your leafy spurge control. But I don't know how they're planning on controlling it or what their plans are, but I would say give us a call and then we can hopefully try and figure something out for your leafy spurge. So for RALP, we say to apply, probably just phone the office and we can kind of talk it out amongst my manager, Neil. Normally what we'll do though is we'll get you to fill out a GROW form, just because they're all very, very similar. And then we'll look it over and we will propose it to our board as if it's a GROW project. and then we will just swing it under RALP. The difference between GROW and RALP though is for RALP you need to have an environmental farm plan, and GROW we do not. So for the environmental farm plan, it used to take a couple of days to do. Now it's and you used to have to go in person. Now it's an online course that takes, I think, like half a day, like maybe a morning. So you would need to do this for RALP. What we'll normally do though is if we do have people applying for GROW that already have their environmental farm plan, we will just scooch them over to RALP. It'll be the exact same funding, but sometimes we don't want to ask people for the environmental farm plan to be done, so we'll just take somebody that already has it and just throw them under RALP. So yeah, I guess I would kind of take in the application forms, but my manager Neil's in charge of it, so if you have any questions about RALP, just phone Neil. Yeah. So this is all of our contact information. That was kind of my spiel for the day. This QR code takes you to our website with all the application forms and everything. And if you need any help filling out any application forms or finding any application forms or are unsure on exactly what you want to do, just give us a call and hopefully we can help you and get you some funding. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.